Yo everyone, what is going on? Welcome to the video. I hope you are all keeping well. I'm keeping very well. I have to say I'm still very much enjoying Spain. To be honest, I'm feeling a little bit all over the place though. Our friends arrived late last night from Ireland. They stayed with us overnight, so I didn't get a whole lot of sleep. I'm not running on a huge amount of energy today, to be honest. I'm just running on pure vibes. Nothing else, just vibing about the place. I don't even know what that means. And they did actually get us a big, juicy liter of vodka for our troubles. So could be worse. I'll definitely be cracking that open this weekend. It actually has the calories on it. So per measure, it says 30 mil is a measure. In Ireland, it's actually 35 mil, but per measure, 67 calories. Pretty good. Probably not the best way to intro a fitness video, but there you go. But yeah, in today's video, I want to talk about my 5 worst diet mistakes when it comes to fat loss. Because as a coach, as somebody who has been there and done that themselves, when it comes to losing fat and getting shredded, I've seen it all, to be honest. I've experienced it all, and today I just want to give you that knowledge. So number 1, you do not make the same mistakes that I have done in the past, and number 2, you do not make the same mistakes that I see people making so often that prevent them from reaching their goals. And as always, I have a couple of brand new banging recipes coming your way, so let's get into it. Okay, so the first diet mistake that I want to talk about is how people have the tendency to start their diet way too aggressively. And you know, instead of finding that balance between setting themselves a calorie goal that is sustainable and that helps them see results at a decent rate, they end up just setting themselves a super low calorie target. And that is going to do a couple of things. So 1, it's going to affect the chances of you growing any kind of muscle in a calorie deficit, or if you are actually able to stick to it for long enough, which you probably won't be, it is going to cause muscle loss, especially over the course of a couple of months. And 2, it is going to require a hell of a lot of motivation on a daily basis. And you know, when you set this goal at first, you might feel super motivated, you probably are, but it's short-sighted to think that you are going to wake up every day feeling the same way for 2, 3, 4 months or however long it takes. And as a lot of you know, when motivation dips, that is when you have the tendency to start eating more. And then you are just in this vicious cycle of trying to follow a super low calorie goal, but actually not making any progress in the process in terms of fat loss. Because even though you're sticking to these calories, maybe 3, 4, even 5 days per week, there is consistently a couple of days per week where you are massively overeating, and that is actually taking you out of the calorie deficit that you have put yourself in the few days beforehand. So instead of putting yourself through that misery, pretty much, what I recommend is setting yourself a deficit of somewhere around 15 to 25% below your maintenance. So for example, if your calorie maintenance is around 2,000 calories per day, then you would be consuming somewhere between 1,500 and 1,700 calories per day. And personally, I wouldn't be able to stick to a deficit of 25% below my maintenance for too long anyway. My appetite is just too big. So when I put myself in a deficit, it is always somewhere between 15 and 20% below my maintenance. So it's really important that you're realistic with yourself and you know your limits as well. And if you have no idea what your calorie maintenance is, and as a result, no real idea as to what you should set your calorie goal at in order to lose fat, as well as getting access to hundreds of recipes in the J Clark Fitness Nutrition Hub, you also get access to my personal calorie and macro calculator. So although this calculator is of course an estimate, like all calculators, it is something I've tweaked numerous times over the years. So in terms of calories, in terms of protein, in terms of carbs, in terms of fats, in terms of fiber, it is going to put you in a really strong position when you are starting your fat loss journey. So if you want to take as much of the guesswork out of it as possible, then make sure you check out my nutrition. Okay, so let's go to my first recipe, and honestly, this is one of the easiest recipes you will ever see on my channel. It only has 2 ingredients, but it's what you do with those ingredients that make it so good. And honestly, it is the perfect snack to have, for me anyway, in the evening time, because number 1, it's low in calories, it's high in protein, it's high in fiber, it's quite voluminous as well, so quite filling for the calories that you get. It's perfect. Let me show you. Okay, so step 1 is to add 150 grams of raspberries to a bowl. To be honest, you can add whatever berry you fancy. Blueberries work well, so do strawberries. Step 2, add 150 grams of chocolate fat-free yogurt, or one of those chocolate high protein puddings. Then you just need to mix it up so the raspberries are fully coated in the chocolate. And honestly, these are so good to eat as is, so you're gonna need to prevent yourself from doing so, but you need to throw it in the freezer for about 1 to 2 hours. So yeah, I'm gonna let the freezer do its thing for a couple of hours. and just wait until you see the final result. The consistency is food porn-esque. It's unbelievable. Alright, so before I crack on with the video, everyone, I just want to let you know that as soon as this video goes live, I'm going to be opening up 5 online coaching spaces. And for those of you who watch my YouTube videos on a regular basis, you will know that I really don't do this very often. It is once in a blue moon because demand is just so high. But yeah, if you're interested in working with me, if you're interested in making some unbelievable changes, both physically and mentally, over the course of the next 12 weeks, then I will leave my coaching application form in the comment section below. It will be the pinned comment at the top. So yeah, you can go fill it out. I will be in touch as soon as possible. We can have a chat. We can see if my coaching is a good fit for you. And yeah, hopefully we can move forward from there. So yeah, I look forward to speaking with some of you then. And yeah, let's crack on with the video. Okay, so the next biggest diet mistake that people are prone to making all of the time is making changes when it is just not necessary to do so. And this usually comes off the back of a slow week on the scales or something like that. So a couple of weigh-ins don't go in the direction that you want, and immediately you start to panic and you either decrease your calories, you increase your cardio, or maybe a combination of both. And the problem with this is if you take this approach every single time you have a slow week, it is not going to be long before you run into a dead end, because calories are just going to be super low. Cardio is just going to be super high. You are not going to be able to remain as consistent with the targets that you have set yourself. Metabolic adaptation might come into the picture as well, because calories are so low and cardio is so high. And as a result of this environment that you have created, it is going to be extremely difficult to just lose any weight. So my advice is to definitely not make any changes after one slow week, and instead wait at least 2 or maybe even 3. And before you do make any changes, it's always super important to be honest with yourself, because it might not even be your current cardio targets or your current calorie targets that are the problem. Instead, it's probably your consistency with them. So for example, you might set yourself a 2,000 calorie goal, but when you look at your MyFitnessPal logs for the last 14 days, because a lot of the times it's not your current calories or your current cardio that is the problem, it is just your consistency with them. So for example, you might think that you are sticking to your calorie goal religiously, but when you look back on your MyFitnessPal logs for the last 14 days, that might tell you a little bit differently. And this is something that happens all of the time. So you might see a few days that aren't really tracked, they're not tracked accurately. You might have had a couple of social occasions. And if that is the case, then there is really no need whatsoever to make any changes. And instead, your main goals over the following couple of weeks should be doubling down on your current targets, being more consistent with them. And that is usually enough to get your progress moving in the right direction again. Because you want to be in a position where you are making progress on as high a calorie goal as possible with as little cardio as possible, because that just means that if you do actually hit a plateau in the future, you have plenty of wiggle room, you know, in terms of calorie and in terms of cardio. So it's like having plenty more tools in your toolbox that you can use if the current tools that you are using stop working. Okay, so I'm always looking for ways to make fatty fish just much more appealing to include in my diet, to be honest, because I'm not a huge fan. Like, unless it's a seafood paella or something, I just don't want to have fatty fish. But then a week goes by and I don't have it, and I feel guilty about it because I know it's so healthy, especially when I buy it. And every time I open the fridge, the salmon is just there and it's staring at me and it's saying, "Eat me, please." But then the chicken is there and the egg whites are there, the turkey is there, and they're just so much more appealing. You know, especially because they're lower in calories, their calorie to protein ratio is better, so you just reach for them instead. You know what I mean. You know exactly what I mean. Don't lie. Or maybe you don't, and I'm just weird, but nevertheless, I have found one of the best salmon recipes ever, and honestly, I love it. Like, and including fatty fish in my diet over the last couple of weeks has just been so much easier as a result. So let me show you. Okay, so let's start with the marinade, and I'm gonna add 30 ml of soy sauce to this bowl. That is gonna be followed by 20 grams of 0-calorie maple syrup. I'm going to season with some sea salt, some black pepper, and some garlic as well. Then I'm gonna add in my salmon fillets. So both of these come to a total of 200 grams. And I'm just gonna soak each one in the marinade for a few minutes. You can actually do this for as long as you want. The longer the better, to be honest, but Yeah, ain't nobody got time for that. Okay, now I'm gonna spray my air fryer with some 1-calorie spray. I'm gonna add in my 2 salmon fillets. I'm gonna add in any last drabs of the marinade. And then I'm gonna air fry at 200 degrees Celsius for 10 minutes. Then as the salmon is cooking away, I'm gonna add 250 grams of cauliflower rice to a pan. I'm gonna season with some sea salt, some garlic, and some black pepper. And finally, I'm gonna add 200 grams of frozen broccoli to a saucepan of boiling water and let that cook away as well. Okay, how do I make this presentable? Let's go cauliflower rice over here, broccoli over here. Let's squeeze our salmon in over here. Looking through the smoke in the mirror. Crazy how I see you so clear. Crazy how I see you. Okay, so the next big diet mistake that I want to talk about is just not giving yourself enough time, because 90% of the time, I would say, people sell themselves massively short in terms of the time that they give themselves, and they only give themselves the exact time that they would need to reach their goal if everything goes perfectly. Because weight loss is not linear in the first place, but then when you factor in things like social occasions, when you factor in a couple of days here and there where you eat more than you planned, where you factor in a couple of lower motivation days here and there as well, there are gonna be fluctuations. There are going to be slower weeks. So when calculating how much time you're going to need to reach your weight loss goal, my recommendation is estimating that you'll lose somewhere between 2 to 3% of your body weight per month. So for example, if you weigh 90 kg, then that would be 1.8 to 2.7 kg in 1 month. And that might look like a loss of 0.7 kg one week, 0.9 kg the following week, 0 kg the following week because you had a couple of social occasions, and then another 0.8 kg the following week. That is usually the pattern that weight loss follows. And on any sort of weight loss journey, it is so important to focus most of your energy on things that move the needle in the right direction the most. And that is the next mistake that I want to talk about, because oftentimes I see people placing so much emphasis on the things that really make very little difference when it comes to fat loss and when it comes to muscle growth. So nutrition wise, your physique results are going to be dictated mostly by how consistent you can be with your calories and with your protein over time. So if you think of it like a pyramid, your calories and your protein are going to be at the base because they hold the most importance by a long shot. But what you see so many unsuccessful dieters doing is not placing nearly enough emphasis on these things and placing way too much emphasis on things that are way up the pyramid. So setting super specific carb and fat goals, for example, meal timing, protein timing, supplements, these are things that can play a role, but in the grand scheme of things, it's a small role. And honestly, if you are not nailing your calories and your protein goals, you can be nailing all of these other targets and make zero progress. And on the flip side, if you are nailing your calorie and protein goals and focusing on absolutely nothing else, you will still make a hell of a lot of progress. So my advice is to double down on your calorie goal, double down on your protein goal, and then when you are confident that you can be consistent with this, you can start moving up the pyramid as you wish. Okay, so it's been about 1 hour since the raspberries went in. Let's see how they're looking. Honestly, putting this in the freezer is an absolute game changer. I just think it makes the snack last quite a lot longer, if that makes sense. Because, you know, if it wasn't in the freezer, I just think a meal like this, it's so tasty and it's so easy to just shovel back. It's gone within the space of a couple of minutes. Whereas when it goes in the freezer and it's a little bit more frozen, obviously, you just have to work a little bit harder for each bite. So even when you're taking off a bit of a chunk, you need to kind of chisel around it. And then when you are putting it in your mouth, instead of swallowing it right back, you kind of have to suck on it for a while, like a sucky sweet kind of thing. So yeah, same calories, same macros, actually tastes better, in my opinion, when it is, you know, slightly harder, slightly more frozen, and lasts longer as well. It's a good shout. Okay, so the final diet mistake that I want to touch on, and this is an important one, is the makeup of your diet. And I often see one of two things. So one is somebody trying to be super strict and removing all of the lower quality foods from their diet. So chocolate, sweets, crisps, ice cream, pizza, all not allowed. Or 2, going in the complete opposite direction and trying to include way too much lower quality food in their diet each day. So getting most of their calories from highly processed foods, less nutritious foods, less filling foods, trying to hit their protein goal with lots of treat foods like protein bars, not really including a whole lot of veg in their diet on a daily basis, this kind of diet. And the likelihood of you remaining on track with either of these approaches long enough to actually see tangible results is minimal. Because, you know, if you try to remove all lower quality foods from your diet, then you are just going to create that relationship with these foods that you cannot have them. So for example, you could have some chocolate one day. It could fit your calories, but for no reason really, you feel guilty about it, you start beating yourself up about it, and as a result, the likelihood of you going way overboard and binging on more and more chocolate is going to be way higher. And if you try and take the opposite approach and include a huge amount of these foods in your diet, then you're just going to feel super hungry on a daily basis because they are just not filling. So the likelihood of you wanting to eat more is going to be higher. If you are eating a lot of these foods in the first place, then your sweet tooth is going to massively increase, your cravings are going to increase, and that is not a really good place to be on lower calories. On top of that, your energy is probably going to suffer because you are not getting the nutrition that you should. Your gym performance is going to be lacking. You are just going to feel pretty crap on a daily basis. So my advice is to find the middle ground here and ensure that on a daily basis, most of your calories are coming from these higher quality sources, but always leave a chunk of your calories each day, a small chunk, for a treat. So it could be some chocolate, it could be sweets, it could be ice cream, it could be whatever, and every now and again, of course, designate a larger number of these calories for a bigger treat. So it could be a pizza that you can fit into your calories once per week or something along those lines. And if you take this approach, it is going to feel like less of a diet and more of a lifestyle, and if it feels like more of a lifestyle, you're going to be able to maintain it for longer. And if you can maintain it for longer, of course, your results are gonna be a lot better. All right, everyone, I'm gonna wrap the video up there. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please make sure to comment below and let me know. And make sure to give the video a big thumbs up as well. Genuinely, every single thumbs up, every single comment goes a long, long way. I really mean that. So please make sure you do. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you are all keeping well. And I will see you in the next video.
Yeah, so baby, don't lose control. I focused on you, baby. Lately, you've been in my aim. I've been reaching out for you, and still they're so far away. Looking through the smoke in the mirror.